Hey everybody! So, Friday was the Sims 4 Tiny Living Stuff live stream. We'll quickly go over everything they covered, just a little bit late because I almost forgot and then I had a lot of technical trouble. Anyway, the pack comes out January 21st for PC and February 4th for console. We were hosted by SimGuru Ninja and a man we will just call Connor, a designer who worked on this pack. First, we went over briefly the patch that came out on Thursday, which was pretty big in terms of size as it added simplified Chinese language to the game, which required it to go over all the packs. Console players now have access to the gallery, which merges the PC, Xbox, and PlayStation 4 communities into one in that area. Lastly, PC have new options to upgrade beds with the patch that came out to enable Tiny Living Stuff. Doing a bed upgrade takes level 6 handiness, and the options include massage controls and the mattress firmness. Ultimately, the big goal here is to enhance energy recovery on lower tier beds so you can focus on look and use what you want instead of being forced to use the luxury objects. While higher tier beds get a 20% increase to energy recovery, low tier beds get their energy recovery doubled. They also changed bookends in this patch. These were simply decorative objects, but they're now able to function as a full bookshelf to help with tiny living. They also did some other improvements, like accent tables can now hold the stand type TVs. Now we get into the actual Tiny Living Stuff pack. The Tiny Home Residential Lot type will be available to players who purchase the pack, and it's key to its functionality, although you can of course use the build mode objects as much as you like. When you start up, if you want to, you can play SimGuru Ninja's admittedly questionable pre-made lot, or just build your own. When you make a home, you can now change from regular residential lot type to Tiny Home Residential. There are 3 tiers that appear. This is the only requirement, size. I say this as some lot types require you to have certain objects on the lot. In this case, it's just tracking how big your house is, and picking this will be required to enjoy the benefits of tiny living. You can see size in the top left. It's based on how many tiles the house has inside, meaning you can't simply build upward to get around it. If you're under 32, you're in a micro home. If you're 64 or under, you're in a tiny home. The small home is 100 tiles or less. The system is only concerned with the interior of the home and how big its space is in tiles, but multiple levels do count toward this, so it's not just about the footprint, but the total living space. Hopefully I've explained that adequately, but in essence the game's just doing some counting. So with a tiny home, what things count against you here? Mostly stuff related to the home's foundation. Walls themselves won't increase it, and neither will floor patterns, but actual floors will. I can happily report that pools can be built without adding to the tile count. You get this new social if you live in one of these tiny homes, which changes based on the size category. Like, instead of bragging about tiny house, it'll be brag about really tiny house. So what's the point of all this? Well, living in a tiny home comes with benefits. There's a new interface to the right of lot info that will show you the benefits you're getting. Bills are reduced and happy buffs last longer in small homes. Tiny homes get both of those, but also additional perks to comfort, doubling the comfort values of items that have that stat, like chairs and sofas. In addition, skill gains are doubled. They rationalize this because being in a tiny house would put you in the zone, meaning your Sims focused on chess or whatever it is they're doing. Now on to the smallest home type, the micro homes. So with micro homes, you'll get everything that you got in the first 2 tiers, but you'll additionally get a let's all get along buff, which is kind of interesting. It doubles relationship gains, but I have something interesting to report there. It actually goes both ways. This means fights and losses to relationship can be worse in these cramped spaces. Lastly, plant growth is doubled for micro homes, not just in the home, but on the whole lot. So yeah, crazy big benefits for living small. I'm not sure how I feel about it because it definitely made living in a mansion even more ridiculous, and now you're missing out on the benefits of living in a small home. Anyway, they now showed off some of the tiny house builds that players submitted to them over the last couple weeks. They already credited these on the screen, so right now I find that to be pretty nice. The stuff that people build in this game can be just outright mind-blowing sometimes. The developers expressed their gratitude at the people who share builds and do amazing things with the game and said they are humbled by it. We went on to build mode at this point where some of the new objects were now covered. Let me tell you, Ninja can run a stream. This thing being 2 hours is not due to a massive amount of content. He's just good at drooling over objects and how well made some of them are. He points out tiny details and gives a lot of praise to the art team. The objects are mostly in a hug style.
Hygge.
The objects are mostly in a hygge style, a Danish style that is said to invoke warm, comfortable feelings of contentment. There's your word of the day. If I pronounced it wrong, I blame Ninja. He went on showing the swatches of various objects. The new 1x1 desk is going to definitely be useful if you're into this tiny living thing. See, I get a sentence out of these things, and that's my max. There is a new kitchen clutter and a new sink. I'm not sure sinks in the game are space savers because they're all 1x1, but this does look like a do-it-all sink for a tiny house. An example of my poor descriptors, a new painting with tons of designs is in my script. He showed a few types of new lights, I think mostly the same with various lengths. There's a couple new combo objects for creating tiny homes that are worth noting. This functions as a television, stereo, and bookshelf. Not necessarily saving much space, I think, because you could hang a TV and use your shelf beneath it, but it looks like it belongs in a tiny house. They didn't just make this a shelf you could use, because it does simplify the pie menu, so you can click this one thing and get access to all of them. This new bookshelf has a couple slots you can put items into. After some time spent in build mode, we finally got to the Murphy bed, which is a big space saver for tiny homes that desire seating. The picture above the bed changes based on whether it's in day or night mode, or if you're like me, night and day mode. Is that the same thing? Is it? They had the kid attempt the Murphy bed and he got knocked senseless by it, but far worse can happen. They did not actually show the Murphy bed death in this stream, preferring to let the community discover that for themselves. You can use these tall, skinny bookshelves next to the Murphy bed and can even buy them all together in a combo. You can see those on the left don't have them, and you can also buy them without a love seat. The monster under the bed will not spawn because this is a double bed. They also brought up that naturally Murphy beds can break. An unbroken Murphy bed can still kill you, but a broken one is far, far more likely to do so. Murphy beds can be upgraded like the normal beds can now, but they also have a reliability upgrade. While as I said they did not show the death animation directly, in case you wonder about it, they used developer cheats to make a ghost who was killed by a Murphy bed accident. This type of ghost will be an energy vampire, sapping other Sims of energy when they possess them. As you can see, the Sim gets zapped and knocked out immediately after. I don't think they were joking when they said these ghosts also give out PSAs about how dangerous this type of bed is. I was curious about this, by the way, so I'd like to point out that they didn't just simply make up Murphy beds being dangerous for Sims. When used improperly or installed improperly, they can definitely be dangerous. That's all I'll say because you guys didn't come here for that. And I'm not going to ruin someone's day, but yeah, there's some crazy stories out there about these Murphy beds. Now they went into why Murphy beds were chosen for this pack, despite the many requests for bunk beds from the Sims community. They justified it as a space saver, and they have a time budget for each pack they're working on to balance all that out. Stuff packs can only contain so much content for $10, and they consider a few cast assets and build objects in the double digits, as well as a hero object to be about right for the amount of stuff to put in a stuff pack. They call the main gameplay object of a stuff pack their hero object. You may note that like Romantic Garden has the wishing well, or the hamster from My First Pet, the butler in Vintage Glamour. I would say that these are all hero objects from the team's perspective. You know, that one object that draws attention and gets people interested in a pack and makes it not just a bunch of stuff. Something that has a little gameplay to it. They've in the past attempted bunk beds, but they consume tons of resources to make. I guess this is why we see sparse new animations at times in these packs. So if you don't want Sims to just teleport to bunk beds, they take a lot of resources, and they don't want to make that type of bunk bed situation when they do it. You know, like the jet skis, but far sillier, teleporting to the top bunk. The Murphy was chosen because it provides a variety of functionality, looking at it as an object that saves space, serves as a love seat, and can be upgraded, and provides a new type of death, whereas bunk beds would just be beds. They also dispelled a conspiracy theory pointing out that they have never withheld content just to put it into another pack. It seems to me they just have a pretty cramped time and resource budget to devote to each pack, something we maybe wish they'd raise, but ultimately that situation is outside individual developers' control. I'm not in particular taking a stance on these issues, I'm just reporting what I heard watching this stream. At the end, they got into the cast assets that come with this pack, and I did sort of zone out. I'll show some of them as we wrap up. They said that something cool is they figured out how to get adult hairstyles onto children. It's not without work, but it is now possible for them to convert some of them. This should help in the future to broaden the selection of hairstyles for children. So that's my summary of the live stream and everything I saw and heard. Throw us a like and share this if it's helpful, and thank you very much for watching.